Is that your stomach or mine?
It's not mine.
Okay. Okay. You ready?
Yep.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
That brings us to our Spider-Man books. And the first one up is Scarlet Spider number 16, which is a Damnation tie-in. We were talking about books we aren't particularly fond of, and this is one of them. You know, it's not bad. I mean, it's got all
love this book.
Do I love this book? I've never loved this book.
Dude, back in like issue 7 or 8, I was hating on it, and you were like, "No, it's good."
It was. It's not now. Now it's mediocre. But the only interesting thing is a couple of interesting things. And first off, anything that's got Elsa Bloodstorm in it can't be too bad. But she's only in like 3 panels, so it's give it a 3 out of 20. Well, if you got 4 panels, but give it 3 out of 100. Anyway, so he's trying to keep everybody out of the casino, but his spider sense isn't working, and he finally winds up fighting all the demons. And at the end, Mephisto offers him a deal. Basically, he offers him a clean slate if Ben Reilly will help him, and they shake hands there at the end. So we'll see how it goes. It's okay.
Yeah, he offers to cleanse his soul and get death off his back.
Yeah, so, all that stuff.
Yeah, we'll see. Funny enough, I thought this was a better issue than it usually is.
Well, it wasn't bad. It's
not by much, but just a little.
Yes, I understand.
Spectacular Spider-Man 192. So no, 302. Where'd 192 come from? This is number 302. I was like, wait, we just did issue 300 recently.
Who did these anyway?
I don't know. Who did do these?
I don't know. Amanda must have done the notes.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Anyway, so if you haven't been keeping up with this, Peter Parker, modern day Peter Parker, Teresa, who's his kind of sister, and J. Jonah Jameson go back in time to fix whatever the Tinker set off in the future. They go back into the past to when Peter Parker is like a teenager or whatever. So both of he and Peter Parker are running around as 2 Spider-Mans and just rounding up all their villains, which they decide to take out the Green Goblin. The Green Goblin, having recently had his picture published in the Daily Bugle, is real mad about it, goes to see J. Jonah Jameson. Now, modern day J. Jonah Jameson in the last issue received a visit from future J. Jonah Jameson telling him that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, which is a fact that the Green Goblin learns when he visits J. Jonah Jameson here. And he blows up the Daily Bugle and potentially killing J. Jonah Jameson. Yeah, so that's not supposed to go off. Meanwhile, Teresa has gotten in contact with Nick Fury, old OG Nick Fury, who's still working for the CIA. They go snooping around and find Peter Parker's parents. Before they died, they were working for the CIA undercover and had a hideout in New York. And so they go visit this hideout, and Teresa discovers that she is in fact the biological offspring of
the Parkers,
Mary and Richard Parker. Yeah. So she is in fact Peter Parker's sister. Hooray. The 2 Spider-Men are running around beating up villains. Young Spider-Man comes home. Seems like nobody's home. Can't find Aunt May. He goes and gets a soda, finds her purse on the ground, only to find that the Green Goblin, now that he knows his identity, has captured Aunt May and is going to put the beat down on young Spider-Man. So we'll see where that goes next issue.
Yes. Next we have Spider-Man Deadpool number 30. And if you want a convoluted mess, this is something like Peter David would have written, because Robbie Thompson is writing this. Last issue, we had old Spider-Man and old Deadpool.
Yeah.
Right? It was like an interlude.
Sure.
But the interlude is actually tied to this book because if you remember at the end of that book, that issue number 29, you had all the Deadpool LMDs coming out of the helicarrier attacking the real Deadpool, at least we assume it's real Deadpool, not an LMD, and old Deadpool and old Spider-Man. So now we're back to the present. And they actually joke in this book, in this issue, about whether or not it's the present or it's just the made-up present and whether or not this is real or it's made up, because even they've got the storyline so convoluted, they're joking about it inside the book. So you have a bunch of superhero LMDs, the Hulk, Captain America, Black Widow, Bobby Morrissey, Mockingbird is fighting some, Spider-Man's fighting some. There's a ton of bad jokes and puns in this thing. The sharks have continued to evolve and are now able to live outside of the water and are walking around upright. And even Deadpool's a little disturbed by this. So, yeah. Matter of fact, one of them, if he learns the end of Altered Carbon while he's out of the tank and before he gets to watch it on Netflix, he's going to destroy everyone on the planet. Yeah. So, anywho, dude, Silk shows up. She starts assisting Spider-Man. And they manage to take their webbing and hold the Hulk together, which is supposed to be as powerful as the other Hulk. It's pretty ridiculous. Finally, Spider-Man and Deadpool catch up with each other. You got the Chameleon, who's, of course, manipulating all of this. And we'll see where it goes, because Spider-Man and Deadpool are determined to kill each other. Then the Chameleon blows up the penthouse where they all were. We'll see what happens.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
Moving on to our regular Marvel Universe comic books, we have Black Panther 171. This is a good issue, but it's really just a big fight. This is the big showdown with Claw here at the end. So there's not a whole lot to say about it other than this is just one big fight. And at the end, some ancient Wakandan evil called the Adversary shows up. Because, you can't savor victory for too long in comic books.
No, because there'll be somebody else showing up.
Yeah.
Next we have Ghost Rider. I forgot the official name. This has got a great cover by Clayton Crane on it.
It looks really good. Yeah,
it's a really good cover by Clayton Crane. I mean, it's yeah. It looks like Frank. What's that dude's name? Frank. The guy that did all the artwork with the Horseman.
Frazetta.
It almost looks like a Frank Frazetta artwork. It looks so good. It's anywho. So the Ghost Rider was cast into hell, except when he got cast into hell, at least Mephisto's version of hell, the Ghost Rider and Johnny Blaze were separated. And they have a plan to stop the damnation thing, except it basically involves taking over hell, which won't be that hard because Mephisto's up on Earth, but they still got to fight millions of demons to do it. So they kind of tentatively team up and start taking out all the demons and making their way to the throne of hell to defeat Mephisto. We'll see how it goes for him.
We know how it goes for him. Did you finish reading it?
Yes, I did.
Dude, Mephisto's on Earth, so the throne of hell is empty.
Yeah.
Johnny walks up and sits on it.
Well, Johnny and the Ghost Rider do. Yeah.
Yeah. So Johnny Blaze and the Ghost Rider are now kings of hell.
Yeah. Is this a one-shot?
Yeah, it is. I looked because I thought, a new Ghost Rider series, but no, it's a one-shot.
Well, and why are there 2 or 3 or 4 Ghost Riders running around at this point?
I
mean, at this point, you have Robbie Reyes and Johnny Storm and Frank Castle all being Ghost Riders. Johnny Blaze, you did that last week. I did it this week.
Yeah.
All being Ghost Rider at the same time. I don't understand. Anywho, tell us about Daredevil 600, which was a great book.
Daredevil number 600 was very good. It's also like a double-sized issue. So Matt's not going to take the mayoral office of Fisk laying down. So he assembles all the heroes. It's basically
the Defenders.
It's basically the Defenders, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, it's Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Misty Knight, Echo, Jessica Jones, Spider-Man, they're all there, Moon Knight. And he says, look, the mayor's got a meeting with all the big crime bosses in New York. They're all going to be in one place. We can take them all down. So they're kind of staking the place out, waiting for Fisk to show up, because if Fisk isn't there meeting with the crime bosses, they don't have anything. What happens is that one of them jumps the gun. Things get a little unruly. The heroes bust in, and that's when the police move in. And that's when they realized it was a setup. Fisk was never going to show up at all. What he wanted was for all the heroes to show up so that he could take down both his competition in the crime ring and all the heroes at one time, which he may have succeeded at doing. We don't know. While this is all happening, Blind Spot and Muse are teeing off. They're fighting, and
that may have been the best part of the issue to me.
Yeah, Blind Spot basically becomes possessed by the demon that runs the Hand in order to defeat Muse. I thought that was really good. Yeah. So Daredevil, being pretty much the only superhero that didn't get arrested here, goes to confront Wilson Fisk, who's getting ready to hold a rally in Central Park, which is where he's holding the rally in Central Park is also the same place where the X-Mansion's supposed to be. I don't know how you can have your office and all live in New York and not make that connection. Like that's an editorial problem.
No, Central Park is
big, but where they're having it, the Great Lawn, which is where the X-Mansion's supposed to be.
Oh, they're both the same spot in the Great Lawn.
Yeah, they're both the same spot in Central Park.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say, Central Park is like Shelby Farms here in Memphis. It's huge. I mean,
it's humongous.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, I got confused.
Yeah. No. Where the X-Mansion is supposed to reside is where Fisk is having his rally. Anyway, point notwithstanding, Daredevil shows up. Fisk beats the utter crap out of him with a sledgehammer. And he goes out to his adoring crowd and is going to make a great political speech when suddenly he's filled with arrows. And the Hand has showed up. A lot of them in force. The Hand is here in New York, all over New York, everywhere. Fisk at this point has, 12 and a half arrows in him. So he's out of commission. Daredevil's in the back of a police van in handcuffs. He's begging with the police officers, look, I know how to handle these guys. Just let me go. They're not having it. And what he can hear is on the other side of the park, or not the park, but the other side of where they're having this rally is all of Fisk's, not lackeys, but his staff. And they're all talking about what happens now because he's out of commission. He's on the way to the hospital. Well, the law recently changed, and in the line of secession is not who they think it is. It's in fact the deputy mayor, who is Matt Murdock, who is Daredevil, who's currently locked up in the back of a police van.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Very good issue.
A great issue. Really good.
I don't want to soft sell it. It was a very, very good issue.
Yeah. Great.
Next we have the Despicable Deadpool number 297. I got confused on this because this begins on a yacht where all the villains are going to gamble. It's a neutral country, kind of like Switzerland, and Deadpool attacks it to steal the money that's there in the vault. And I guess because you got to understand, you've got the Chameleon running around Spider-Man, Deadpool impersonating him. And Deadpool is so out of character in this, kills a couple of people randomly as he's robbing the place, that I thought, is this the Chameleon or is it Deadpool? Well, and his jokes are worse than usual too. It really is Deadpool, and he really does want the $20 million. And when he gets the $20 million, he takes it, goes to see a nun who apparently takes assassination contracts on the side, and puts out a contract on himself for $20 million. I really don't understand.
I'm sure all will be revealed in the next issue.
It's a whole self-deprecation thing. Not really. That's a bad term. He's punishing himself for the acts he did during Secret Empire, for killing Preston, for not killing Captain America, for killing Coulson. He's punishing himself for all these things, but I don't. And Colin Bunn is writing this, so I'm sure it's going somewhere. It's simply a confusing storyline at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Iron Man 598. Speaking of a confusing storyline, this has really kind of gone off the rails. We're in Chicago in Riri's basement, her garage, her workshop, when Blade shows up. Yes, that Blade. And tells her to go back to MIT. Okay. Meanwhile, in Latveria, the Hood, Parker Robbins, and the Wrecking Crew have confronted Dr. Doom because he's becoming Dr. Doom again, and are trying to pry his mask off and get him out of the armor because they want his money. It's just an old-fashioned shakedown. Meanwhile, back at MIT, Riri meets up with Tony Ho, Arno Stark, who's Tony Stark's brother or something, and Madison Jeffries, who are all geniuses. They think they've located where Tony Stark is. So Riri and all these other D-listers put on their armor and call themselves Armor Squad. Hooray.
Yeah.
They go to an abandoned Best Buy where they're attacked by a number of armored villains. When it turns out they're just drones, and they find out that this is the hideout of Sarah's Goldstein. If you have been reading Ultimate Spider-Man, not Ultimate Spider-Man, just Spider-Man, Miles Morales Spider-Man, this is the lady who set up Hobby Brown with his spider suit. She's giving high-tech suits and weaponry to supervillains is her thing. So they got her, but Tony Stark's not there, so they start looking for him again. Meanwhile, the Wrecking Crew and the Hood are able to break into the armor, but Victor Von Doom has teleported away to Boston, to the home of Dr. Amara, who's the lady that he had a thing with that doesn't want to see him anymore, and reveals that, hey, I'm the father of your child. Yeah. This dude, this got real weird real fast.
Yeah, and it's like the hunt for Wolverine. You know it's going somewhere. You know Tony Stark's coming back, but let's kind of get there.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Is we don't need all this craziness going on. Just get there.
Yeah,
and I understand this is some of the last stuff that Bendis is writing at Marvel, and dude, it's getting weird.
Speaking of the last stuff Bendis is writing at Marvel, we have Jessica Jones number 18. I thought last issue was the last one. I apologize for being correct on that. Jessica's needing a job, so this young lady shows up, and she is in love with the armadillo. And apparently the armadillo has been acting strangely lately. And I actually remember him being in one of these books and getting beat up by one of these superheroes. I forget which one. But she goes to all the superheroes who has fought the armadillo in like the last 6 months. And it's Ben Grimm, and it's who else was there? There's a number of them. Miles Morales was one of them. And they just all randomly beat him up, and they all think he was acting strange, but nobody stopped to say, well, why are you acting strange? Except that I think it was Miles Morales who actually stopped and said, dude, what's up with you? And he didn't want to talk about it. So finally Jessica Jones goes and finds the armadillo and says, look, what's wrong with you, dude? And he's like, no one can love me like this because I'm an armadillo. It's not an outfit. I really am a giant 8-foot tall armadillo. And there's pages of dialogue as Jessica convinces him that the young lady really is his true love, and he rushes to be with his true love, and she sends Jessica a fact check, and everybody lives happily ever after. And there's a nice letters page from Bendis at the end saying how much he loves Jessica Jones.
So this is the last issue?
This really is the last issue, yes.
This is the last thing that Bendis does at Marvel is an issue about the armadillo?
Yes. I think Iron Man 600 will be the last issue, but yeah. This armadillo story is his last Jessica Jones story.
Okay.
Yes. The armadillo.
don't understand. Don't understand.
It's love. It's love and redemption and all that sort of thing.
Whatever. Anyway, Moon Girl 29. Not a bad issue. It's good. Her and Thing and Johnny Storm are still trying or teamed up with the Silver Surfer and Galactus to stop this other entity that's going to eat the universe. The most important thing that happens in this comic is that she goes back and brings Devil Dinosaur back.
There you go. We're running short on time, so I'll make Moon Knight 193 kind of quick. But here's the crux of it. Dude, your boy Max Bemis is just doing a great job with this. So it's finally time for Mark Spector / Moon Knight to fight the Sun God. And Ra, thank you. So we all know Mark's kind of crazy, and he starts fighting the Sun God, and he's just continually getting his butt kicked throughout this entire issue. And it's happening here too. And he finally gets inside his head and starts talking to all the different incarnations of his different personalities. How about that? And what's the moon god's name so I don't pronounce it wrong?
Khonshu.
Thank you. I wanted to put an A in there. I wanted to call it Khonshu. Starts explaining it to him, and Mark Spector walks up and explains that, says, okay, is this what you're trying to say, that Moon Knight really does have powers? And I'm crazy, but I'm not that crazy, and he really does have powers. And at that point, he realizes who he is and just starts beating down Ra. Puts a complete beat down on him, takes over the island. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good issue.
Good book, man.
Old Man Hawkeye #3. You're going to have to help me out with this because I don't understand what's happening.
I didn't read it.
Okay. Well, Clint's on this weird mission, finds himself at Arcade's Murder World in Nevada. Bullseye's going after him. For whatever reason, Bullseye's carving the Watcher's eye out of this dude who also has an eye for a head, whose name I can't remember. Clint meets a blind lady who gives him a premonition of some kind. And then he goes and beats up Atlas, who his old buddy from Thunderbolts, and puts an arrow in his eye and kills him. And yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I don't understand what's happening in this comic. It's not that it's bad. I just don't understand any of the characters' motivations or why any of this is happening.
I'll go back and read it because I'm going to go back and read it because I'm looking forward to this series and I've been enjoying it. I simply spent more time playing Forza this week than I did reading comic books, so I didn't get to it. What I did read was Old Man Logan #37. Now, a few months ago, before Fisk became mayor, we were introduced to Sarah Dewey, who was a young writer, okay, not so young, who was down on her luck, and she wrote Fisk autobiography. And as discussed in this issue, and we were kind of led to at the time, it helped Fisk clean up his image to the point he was able to become mayor.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it took a heavy toll on Sarah Dewey, who has fallen off the wagon and is extremely drunk again as she gets home and finds Logan there. And she's got this flash drive, and he's got this flash drive to have all the secrets of Wilson Fisk. Bullseye's after him. There's some great fighting here between Bullseye and Logan. The young lady escapes with the drive and gets it to her hacker, who is going to find out what it is. By the time he's going to, Bullseye kills dude. So There you go. Yeah. Good issue, man. There's been some Bullseye stories recently that really didn't measure up. That limited series wasn't great. You know, that 4-issue series he had. This really, who's writing this? Mike Diodato drawing it, which is that means it's good in and of itself. And Ed Brisson is writing it.
Ed Brisson's still writing it, I believe.
Yeah, it's Ed Brisson writing it. He does a much better job of portraying Bullseye. And as we've often discussed with Deadpool, some of these characters is just how you write them and what you do with them. So there you go.
Yeah, I enjoyed this issue. It was really good.
Oh, dude, I love this issue.
Yeah, it was great. They're getting a whole lot of longevity out of Wilson Fisk being the mayor of New York. That was one of the best moves they could have done with that character because it allows them to tell so many stories. It's really good.
Absolutely.
I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah.
Star Wars, the only one we had this week is Dr. Aphra 18. So they've captured General Syndulla, who, if you've watched Star Wars Rebels, she's a big character there. She's one of the main characters, and they're on her ship. They're going to go meet up at a Imperial facility and exchange her for some information. So while they're doing that, Aphra is talking to a couple of the androids that she hired to be her team, and they're asking, she's asking, how'd you guys end up like this? And they say, Dr. Cornelius Evazan. He's wanted for the death sentence in 13 systems. And it turns out that Dr. Cornelius Evazan is the pig-nosed dude from the cantina in Mos Eisley that accosts Luke in A New Hope. Oh. He wasn't bluffing. He really is wanted for the death sentence in 13 systems. Oh. And apparently he's some sort of like crazy android building hacker dude. Anyway, what were you gonna say?
I haven't been reading Dr. Aphra, and I want to get caught up on it.
Yeah. So they go to this, what's called Hive Base 1, which is a classified facility for Imperial research and development. In other words, this is where they do their crazy science experiments. They say, hey, we've got the general here. If you let us land, we'll exchange her to you for letting us land and all that. They agree. And of course, Aphra's immediately not going to let that happen. She was just using her as bait to get on the ship. She's not really intending to turn her over to the Imperials. They find a bunch of crazy science experiments gone wrong in this facility. The Imperials figure out what she's doing. She's trying to steal some information. A bunch of folks get shot up, and there's a big old shootout that we have not seen the end of. So we'll start the next issue there.
Good.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Very good.
Yeah. So what was your favorite comic book this week, Pat?
I'm going to go with Daredevil 600. And it wasn't so much there's a lot of pieces here. You got all the heroes that are there. You got all the villains that are there. And there's probably 30 or 40 characters between the heroes and the villains that are in that warehouse that get arrested. But what I really enjoyed was what they did with the blind spot. I thought that was good. Old Man Logan was close, but I really enjoyed this Daredevil 600.
Yeah, it's hard for me to not say the same thing. I mean, Daredevil 600 was really just the runaway book of the week.
Yeah, it was.
It was the one I enjoyed the most for sure.
Yeah.
Tell us about what's in the dump this week.
There's some. Well, first, you got a Darkhold series that I don't even know what that's about. You know more about the Darkhold stuff than I do. You got some classic Machine Man, but you've got some X-Force and Wolverine Series 1 books that I would have thought should have already been in Unlimited, but they're trying to fill the gaps. If you're an X-Force fan, the original X-Force team, okay?
Yeah. We're talking the Cable's X-Force.
No, that's yes. Yeah. I'm sorry. I got them and X Factor confused. Last week there were some X Factor books. If you're a fan of the original series, these are some good books, and those Wolverine books are good. I'm surprised they're not there, but we discussed it a few months ago. There's some gaping holes in that Wolverine series, and there shouldn't be. And this is filling those in.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, alrighty. Well, that'll pretty much do us for this week. If you want to hit us up, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That is the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
The website is www.6monthsbehind.com.
And as is tradition, Pat, leave us with a little wisdom.
William S. Burroughs said, "Silence is only frightening to people who compulsively verbalize."
Yeah. If you've ever met anybody who doesn't like silence, they just will continue talking to fill the void.
Forever.
And just say nonsense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see y'all next week.
Peace. That is Mike Werner, dude. He just never shuts up.
It really?
Yeah, man, he'll come in my office and I would literally be in the middle of doing something and he'll say, "Hey, you got this piece of paperwork? Oh, okay. Hey, man, let me tell you what I just saw on YouTube." And he talks for the next 10 minutes. And eventually I'm just like, "Dude, go away."
Yeah.
And he'll be on lunch and I'll like go in the break room to get some tea or something out of the refrigerator and he'll just start talking, man. I'm just like, "Dude, I don't care. I want to go back to TV in my office. Leave me alone."
Right. It's like, there's a difference between, just a little idle chit chat when you see one another passing in the office and, having a 15-minute conversation just because you ran into one another.
He'll start talking and I mean, until you manage a way to extract yourself away from him, he'll go for 10 or 15 minutes if you don't stop him.
Lord.
Yeah.
You got what's next in you?
Not really, but let's do it anyway because we've been promising forever.
Okay.
Plus, you're carrying it, so all I got to do is sit here and go, occasionally.
Okay. All right. You ready?
Yeah, man. No, I'm not. Hold on.
I was going to say, you sound like you're under your desk.
Well, I am under my desk. I thought I was ready. Hang on.
I got notes on this if you want to look at them.
I'm going for the what's next notes so I can remember the intro.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
All right, that's where I'm going. Bear with me just a moment. Untitled document, men's breakfast, more podcast notes. What's next? Okay, now I'm ready. You there?
Cool. Yeah. I was looking at my notes. All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello again. This is the What's Next podcast. I'm Pat.
And I am Sean.
And we're the guys that bring you the 6 month behind podcast. But this is the podcast where we take a deeper look into other books that you can find. Once you've read the weekly books, you can find the other things to read. And we kind of carry you beyond events like Secret Empire into other storylines that may be relevant at the time. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I am well. What are we talking about this week?
This week we are talking about Captain Marvel. And you may have seen there's a movie coming out about Captain Marvel.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Oh, well, there's a trailer up on YouTube and everything, and everybody's talking about it. So I figured now would be a good time to talk about Captain Marvel because much like when the Guardians of the Galaxy came out a couple years ago, not the general lay person, your average geek does not know a whole lot about Captain Marvel, and particularly Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel, because she's not always been Captain Marvel.
No.
But the movie will explore her origin story and how she becomes Captain Marvel. So I figured we would take it from that perspective. But before we get started, if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
The website is www.6monthsbehind.com, where you will find the notes for these books and this podcast there.
Cool. So just so everybody knows, if you haven't seen the trailer, Captain Marvel comes out on March 8th, 2019, just a few months from now, and is all about Carol Danvers and how she becomes Captain Marvel. It's actually set as a prequel to all the other MCU movies. It actually takes place in the 90s. Nick Fury's still got both eyes. He's still working for the CIA. I think it will set up both her origin story as well as we'll get a few answers to what happened at the end of Avengers Infinity War. Maybe. That's my hope. But if you don't know anything about Captain Marvel, this is a good place to start. So, brief history. Captain Marvel was originally created by Stan Lee and Gene Colan in 1967, and he was originally a Kree warrior named Mar-Vell who came to Earth as a spy and begins to identify and empathize with humans of Earth. He decides to become a protector of Earth and eventually becomes one of their heroes. Now, if you're wondering why I'm saying it's because Carol Danvers hadn't even been invented yet in 1967. A year later, he gets revamped by Roy Thomas with a new costume, updated abilities, and the comic takes on a more science fiction bent. But he also gets teamed up with Rick Jones, who we know basically created the Avengers. He plays a significant role in the Kree Skrull War, and Jim Starlin takes over writing duties in 1973. The book's being published bi-monthly and really isn't doing well in sales. Gets canceled with issue 62 in 1979.
All right, let me interject here.
Okay.
First off, I bought those books when I was a kid. I really enjoyed them. Secondly, in that Jim Starlin run there from 73 to 79, that's where he created Thanos.
Yeah, it was. He creates it. Thanos, Adam Warlock. Jim Starlin did a whole lot with Captain Marvel in that time.
Yes.
A lot of the things that are the toys that are getting played with in the Marvel Universe today were created by Jim Starlin during that time. Unfortunately, at the time, nobody was interested.
Correct.
Then in 1982, Marvel publishes its very first graphic novel called The Death of Captain Marvel, where
huge success.
Yeah, huge success, where he dies. So there's kind of this long-lasting legacy of Captain Marvel in the Marvel universe at this point. You know, he's kind of seen as a hero who sacrificed himself for Earth, and he wasn't even human. So now to give you a little bit about Carol Danvers. She's created by Roy Thomas in 1968 and is initially introduced as a Navy Air Force pilot, as well as kind of a colleague and sidekick of Mar-Vell in Marvel Superheroes number 13. There's an explosion. Her DNA gets fused with Mar-Vell's Kree DNA. She gains superpowers and dubs herself Miss Marvel. Now, she has had her own comic plenty of times, been parts of teams. She's kind of been everywhere since the late 60s, going through a number of different name changes. Her powers have changed a few times. I think once or twice she got depowered and got them back. She went through the names Binary and Warbird at one point in time. She's kind of been, I don't know, she was kind of a middling C-list character for a long time in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, she was in the Avengers when she was Binary, and she and Rogue had a thing where Rogue kind of took her powers and took her memory at one point, and nobody really knew what to do with her.
Yeah, she was just kind of there. Her and Jessica Drew got to be really good friends, and that continues. I forgot about that thing with her and Rogue.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in July of 2012, Kelly Sue DeConnick writes a standalone Captain Marvel comic book starring Carol Danvers. She assumes the mantle of Captain Marvel. By the way, the art is done by Dexter Soy in this comic, and it's phenomenal. It's really, really good.
Huh.
So what happens is she just decides to do a costume change. Her and Captain America are fighting somebody one day, and she changes her hair a little bit too. They're fighting the Absorbing Man, I think it is. And she starts getting questions about who's your new sidekick, Captain America? Who's this? Who are you? And they don't understand that she is Miss Marvel, which leads to a conversation with Steve Rogers about, hey, you've been in the shadow, in Mar-Vell's shadow for years. He's gone. Why don't you just take the name, take the mantle? You know, it's more than just a name. This is you assuming the mantle of Captain Marvel and what all that means. And she's initially resistant to it, but after visiting with an old friend and remembering someone that from her past, she decides that that's exactly what she's going to do. Now, the whole series explores Carol's past, what the legend of Captain Marvel means to Carol, why she decides to become Captain Marvel, and how the rest of the Marvel universe kind of reacts to this. There's a whole like time travel bit where she goes back in time, meets this old Air Force pilot that was kind of her mentor, bails them out of a situation, goes back to her time, the very moment where the explosion happens and where she gets infused with Kree DNA. She has the ability to, or rather the opportunity to save herself and stop it from happening, but does not do it. And as she makes her way back to the present, she kind of becomes this new person. She has this renewed resolve. And you even see this, I mean, even by issue 8 or 9, the series has changed Carol Danvers as a character. Not just her costume and not just her hair, but even her physical features are different. Her personality changes throughout the comic book. She becomes a whole new character. The Carol Danvers that we see in Civil War II and running Alpha Flight, and that we see in the modern comic books that we're reading today, is a far cry from Miss Marvel, even in the early to late 2000s when she was still Miss Marvel. She's very much a different character at this point. By the way, Emma Rios takes over art in issue number 5, and it's really good because it's the time travel bit, and so it's like this older 1960s kind of style art, but it's got a modern flair to it that looks really good. Felipe Andrade takes over after Emma, and it's also very good, but really unconventional.
I was looking at these books as we were talking about them. They're really good, man.
Yeah,
this is a really good series.
Kelly Sue DeConnick is a phenomenal writer who I wish had stayed with Marvel longer because everything she did there was fantastic. This she wrote 2 series. She wrote Captain. If you look in your app, Marvel Unlimited, and you search for Captain Marvel, you'll find Captain Marvel 2012 to 2013. That's like a 19 issue series. That's her first run on the series. And then you have 2013 to 2015, which is where it relaunches, and it's kind of like a second volume. And the second volume is where her romance with Rhodey takes off. It's where she joins the Guardians of the Galaxy for a little while. But this first one,
but the second series is where she gets the cat.
Are you sure? Because I think the cat shows up in the first one. Okay.
Was it the first or second one?
I don't know. She talks about Chewie pretty early on there.
I may be wrong. I was actually looking at comic events.
Okay.
But anyway, she gets the cat in one of these series, and I love the cat.
Yeah, Chewie's great. There's a scene at one point where she's got to take Chewie to the vet, and dinosaurs are attacking New York for whatever reason. And so she finds a cab driver and says, "Hey, do you want to be a deputy Avenger for the day?" And he's like, yeah. Here, take this cat to this address. It's an Avengers headquarters. It's disguised as a veterinary clinic. And I was just like, wow.
That's funny.
That is funny. This series is really good at reshaping who Carol Danvers is and giving you kind of a reintroduced origin story. Her origin being she was a Navy pilot, gets involved with the Kree, comes back to Earth, which I think is the basic premise that the movie's going to take, and becomes she's become one of the A-list heroes. I mean, she was a B and C list hero. She's on like East Coast Avengers or West Coast Avengers or Great Lakes Avengers, or she's never first in line when they start picking Avengers teams. And now she's one of the leaders. She's leader of Alpha Flight. Was leader of the Avengers for a while, has led the Avengers a couple times. But it's just, if you go back and read that old Miss Marvel stuff, even from her time with the Mighty Avengers in the early mid 2000s, and then read this, the change in the character is just night and day. She's a different character.
Absolutely. She's a completely different character, and it was reinvented in that storyline, as you said.
Yeah, and it's really, really good. So if you want to know more about Captain Marvel, best place to start is Kelly Sue DeConnick's run 2012 to 2013, then 2013 to 2015. They are still publishing Captain Marvel books beyond that point. Tara Butler takes the reins in 2015, also a good series. But yeah, that's pretty much that is the introduction to Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel. Now, we could do a whole nother episode on Marvel and his whole thing, but since the movie's coming out here soon and everybody's getting hyped about it, I wanted to bring you guys something that kind of a way to introduce you to that character without going into the movie with no context whatsoever.
Yeah.
So that's Captain Marvel. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
You can hit us up on the website where you will find all the notes for this on www.6monthsbehind.com.
And be sure to check out our other podcast, 6 Months Behind, where we go through a deep dive on the new comic books that come out every week on Marvel Unlimited. And with that, that will pretty much wrap us up. We will see you guys next week. Pat, what are we doing for the next issue of What's Next? You want to do something on Mephisto, right?
Yeah, we're doing Mephisto. Mephisto has been in a lot of places recently. He's got that Damnation event going on. They're kind of touring around with Brand New Day. They're in Amazing Spider-Man. And they put some stuff in Dump where Mephisto had a limit back in the early mid-'80s. And he's just kind of there, man. So I thought, we'd look into it.
Okay, cool. All right, guys. We will see you next time.
Peace.